Okay. Well, I could just take the first line, so I'm totally setting the tone of what this podcast feels like.
Yeah, and I'll just follow.
You're gonna
You have
be
so many-
you're gonna be sitting here like, really? That's how we sound.
That's how we start. Okay, more scotch for me.
Welcome to Overthinking Episode 1, where we take fun, interesting ideas, overanalyze them, and run them to their logical conclusions, all in the name of exploration, education, and most importantly, entertainment.
I'm Luke,
And I'm Devin.
and we don't claim to be experts in any of the topics we discuss here today. We simply find these ideas interesting as we hash them out in real time. Get ready to join us on the exciting, fun, and crazy ride to absolutely nowhere.
This week, we are actually in the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. It's the largest, most powerful particle accelerator ever built. So, Luke and I are trying to sit very still, because if any of those particles hit us,
We're toast.
well, yeah, you'll know because the podcast ends.
Yep, and this will never be uploaded.
What are we talking about today, Luke?
Well, first I want to start this off, and this is the first episode, so things might happen and then never happen again, or they might just get cut on the cutting room and you'll never hear about them. But I like to start off, just warm us up, warm up our brains, because we don't want to go right into the deep stuff, right? We want to kind of do a little thought experiments to get us set. So in a segment I like to call Secrets Uncovered. Secrets of the world that we just kind of just realized. We're like, that's interesting. I'm making this out to be much more dramatic than it really is. But I was really something interesting happened. It's been like a long 2 weeks of a lot of driving, a lot of meetings and events and stuff going on. And I was driving home the other night, and I was so exhausted. I was just so tired. I was just like focusing on driving. I was like listening to a podcast, just like get home. And there was someone in the car.
Was it our podcast?
It doesn't exist yet, so no.
Okay.
I traveled. This was in the future, so this is next week that this happened. But I was driving, and there was someone like in the car just like passed me, and I was just like, oh, it's so annoying. And then it just hit me, and I know this has hit a lot of people, and this is a semi-common thing, but it hit me harder than it ever has, and it's called sonder. Are you familiar with the term, Devin?
No.
Okay, you're probably familiar with the explanation, though.
Probably.
It's the realization that everyone else has lives other than our own. And it kind of just started spiraling because I was so tired. I was just trying to focus on something, just get me home. And I just started thinking about every single other person's lives and how I don't exist in them. And that was just a weird
Existential?
Thank you. Crisis. Where I was like, to 99.9999999% of
Planet Earth.
of anything conscious, I don't exist. And that was just a weird it was just a weird thought to have late at night while you're driving and just trying to stay awake. And so that's a little bit of my secrets uncovered for today. Something that hit me pretty hard that left me thinking for quite a little while as I was driving home. Did you have anything to share yet? I don't think we actually prepared. So by the way, we're not sharing what we're about to talk about with each other. So did you prepare anything for this? Or?
I didn't know Secrets Uncovered was going to be part of our flow.
It's in. To be fair, it's in the outline. But.
No, to be fair, it's in the outline, but I never knew what it meant. But now
That's
I know
true,
what your
I did
idea
not tell
was.
you.
Now I know what your idea was behind it.
Anything impromptu, or should we just move on?
I think we should move on, but we might backtrack at some point.
That's fine. We can
Okay.
backtrack. We can do whatever we want. This is our show.
Right.
And so, thought experiment number 1, Devin.
Oh, whoa! Before you dig in, I do have.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Yeah.
You have something.
I'm drinking a coffee, and
Nice.
I know you to be the guy who has only the finest of cheap wine. What are you drinking today, Luke?
I don't even. That does not. Okay, that does not deserve an answer. But I have excellent taste when it comes to drink and food, and I have right here a 12-year Scotch. It's my favorite thing in the world. The complexities, it just leaves you satisfied. You see, I only have a little bit, it's a tiny bit. It's probably maybe a shot. And I'm sip on this for hours. And it's so amazing and relaxing and,
Who made
I
it?
love it. Yeah. What?
Who made it?
It's Macallan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's my special little treat because the bottle's $60, $70?
Yeah.
So it's
Just
my little
smooth?
treat to myself. Oh, it's so smooth.
So you guys are getting this. I haven't tried it, so I'm actually genuinely. Is it?
Oh yeah, no, it is. I'll when I visit you, I'll introduce you. Even though I know you don't drink a lot, I'll slowly introduce you to a lot of the finer things. Right?
All right.
We're not
Sounds
going
great.
cheap.
Sounds great.
But yeah, so Devin is I guess we're both just being a little bit, we're relaxing ourselves throughout this because who knows how long this is gonna go. But honestly, since I did my little thing, you want to go first with what your topic is for today?
I have a big topic.
Okay. My topic actually isn't that big, so it'll be a nice round out.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, because I want to talk about thought, how we think.
Oh boy. Okay.
I want to start heavy.
Okay.
I want to start heavy. This is
Okay.
Overthinking episode 1. What is thinking?
And we're thinking, and we are literally going to overthink right from the get-go.
How meta can we get?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I have some background stuff that I just want to throw out there, and I'm gonna lead it to an idea that it's not new. I didn't create this, but I've been hashing it out for literally months now, and it's built on a lot of the different things that psychology and sociology has started to pick at, and it's just weaving everything together. So, I'm gonna if we talk about what psychologists are saying today, I wrote their names down because I don't know these guys. Keith Stonovich, hopefully I said that right.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
Richard West, they were the guys who came up with the two systems in the mind.
Oh yeah. I'm very familiar with that. Yes.
Yay.
Okay.
So system 1 is this quick computing thing that analyzes everything in our life, decides what matters, what doesn't, and it throws out most of everything, so we don't notice most of anything, right?
Right.
There's no sense of voluntary control on it. It's just this autopilot kind of working thing. And it's system 1 is what organizes your long-term memory, right? Versus system 2, which it tends to be who you think you are, right? When you think, who is Luke, who is Devin, that's system 2, even saying, who is this person? And this system tends to follow instructions. It tends to be lazy. It tends to be slow. It doesn't want to do work. It doesn't want to think. Yeah. But it's very careful and it catches mistakes. This is also when you get into long-term and working memory. Short-term memory is worse than working memory. Long-term versus working memory. Working memory is system 2's world, and system 2 can only deal with 4 or 5 things at a time. All these things. To maybe simplify it, I think most people kind of see this as the subconscious versus the conscious, right?
Yeah.
If you boilerplate it, system 1 is the subconscious, system 2 is the conscious, right?
Yeah.
That's some work that's been done and that a lot of psychologists are accepting at this point, right? I want to compare that to Freud. Freud gave us the id, the ego, and the
Freud
superego.
on episode 1.
Oh, I'm gonna keep.
Woof. Okay. Yeah, drink that coffee. Let's get.
Looks like I need another shot. I said I'd have this for hours, but chug the scotch.
Okay, let's take a nice deep breath, everybody. Let's go to Freud.
So he's got the id, the ego, and the superego, and they might be the only things that Freud ever said that haven't been disproven. But the id is this impulsive, unconscious instincts level that we would call subconscious, right? And the ego is system 2. It's the conscious, interacts with reality, decision maker. Freud made the analogy that the ego is the rider on the back of the elephant, which is the id, because the rider's trying to steer the id, but the id's much stronger. And then Freud, in addition to system 1, system 2, which is basically what that is, he introduces the superego, which he says houses morality. This is the part of your brain that decides whether or not what you're doing is right or wrong, right? And it punishes you for things that it deems wrong that aren't with your ideal self by making you feel guilty, right?
Yeah. And
so this is a third-party decision maker that looks at the interaction between the conscious and the subconscious and says, yeah, that wasn't cool.
Wait a minute. I've actually never heard that. The idea of having a third party within your own mind.
Well, that's really why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah, that's I actually because I took psychology. I've read a lot about Freud and this all that, but I've never ever no one's ever said that like that one word is third party,
Right.
which changes everything.
Right. So
wow. Okay.
I love, dude. You got like 2 steps ahead of my notes there. You really
what
did.
Can I say? I'm an overachiever. I'm an overthinker and overachiever. Boom. I need a drum set right here.
Proud of you. No,
Thank
man,
you.
just like a keyboard and a button.
I'll just do it in editing.
Yeah. That'll be good.
This is gonna be the worst.
So, my whole point is like the interweaving of all these different ideas where psychologists don't seem to recognize this. Philosophers seem to recognize this, but psychologists look at this and they're like, oh, look, you have system 1 and system 2, or the id, the ego, and the superego. But I'm going to say one more idea that's going to weave together what philosophers are talking about when it comes to how we think right now.
Okay.
When you're thinking about what you're going to do later in the day, you tend to do things like, in your mind, something like, later I'm going to go to the store and I've got to pick up milk and I've got to pick up bread and I should probably write a list because I'm going to forget this.
Yeah.
And then you don't write the list and then you forget it. But
Yeah.
in your mind, you think to yourself using the language that you grew up with.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Your self-talk in your mind is words.
Yeah.
You communicate to yourself, Luke, the same way that you communicate to me.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Who are you talking to when you're thinking about what you're doing later today?
And the interesting thing is it's yourself.
Right.
That's a loop. That's a never-ending loop of
Right. So psychologists have been hinting at this for a long time and never fully grasping it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing that I want to make it very clear I'm not talking about like multiple personalities.
Right. Yeah.
Inside every working mind, there are multiple personalities. But it's not like multiple personality disorder. It's not like that. There's these different interacting parts of how we think. Because the id and the ego interact. The superego is the mediator. System 1 and System 2 interact with each other. There are different levels of your mind. Your consciousness, what you think of as you, isn't one thing. It's actually, we can't even claim to know how many things there are. We just know there's more than one part of your consciousness that interact with each other.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up something that this might throw off your note. I don't know where you're going with this. So this made me remember something. I'm googling it right now to make sure I have the sides right.
Google.
Because I can't remember the difference between left brain and right brain. I always get them mixed up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think. Let's see. What I'm looking at right now is left. Left has to do with logic, science and math, and the right is more creativity in the arts. So, have you ever watched CPG Grey? I think I told you to watch him. I don't know if you actually did.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I don't listen to you.
So he's he's like an educational YouTuber, really just thought-provoking stuff. And he has this video on the left brain versus the right brain.
Okay.
And he was talking about how we can the left brain, is about science and math, and that's the side also that governs language. If I'm not getting this entirely wrong, which I don't believe I am, like I'm pretty sure. And he was talking about also like how the right is about emotion and creativity, and we can't but that doesn't represent the side of language. So our creativity, like everything that processes creativity, can't be described in language because that brain doesn't understand language at all. Which is why if we like a song or we like a painting, it's really difficult to explain why, and we have to interpret, like we have to invent logical terms to describe why we like certain things. And so what he was talking about, how when the left and right brain, when the wires when the tissue dividing them is cut.
Cerebral cortex.
Yes, that. Thank you very much.
I was gonna bring that up in my notes, so that's not something I knew before I was preparing for this.
So you're not actually smart.
No.
When that's cut, then all of a sudden you can have two sides of your brain doing two different things. And you can have something like on one end of a table that maybe your right eye can't see, and you won't know it exists. You won't be able to say it exists, or vice versa, right? Whatever eye is governed by language, you will not be able to say that it exists. But your hand will go and pick it up, even though you can't see it, right? Or you can't say that you see it. So in it, he was talking about like in that thing is the conversation in between ourselves, and also Bo Burnham has a great like joke, song about it. Is that's who you're talking to? He's like, what if there's actually another being inside your own head that's silent? It cannot talk. It can't speak, so we never know it exists. And we're going about our life. I might have got some of like the things mixed up around left and right brain, so don't.
You got the general idea.
Yeah, sue me. Like,
right?
Actually, don't, please. But like that's the first thing that always comes to mind with that line of thinking is that what if?
Right. Well, and actually, that's part of what's bringing philosophers to the conclusions that I'm outlining of there are multiple parts of our mind that interact with each other. I'm doing weird things with my hands.
I don't know what that motion is, but okay, I got it.
Because when you do cut the cerebral cortex, there's ways of blocking off one part of the brain at a time, and then asking questions about the person. So when the cerebral cortex has been severed, ideally this is by an accident. This isn't still being done intentionally. But when you talk to one half of the brain and ask them things like, what's your favorite color? The answers change. And then once you allow both parts of the brain to interact again, because our brain is smart enough to work around that issue if both sides still function, the person then remembers giving you both answers.
Whoa, really? Well, I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
The staggering thing about it is at that point, with the limited studies that I've seen on it, at that point, most people then can't reconcile which one's actually their favorite color anymore.
Wow.
So you can ask them the question before you block off one part of the brain at a time. This is people who've already had this accident.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Then you can only ask the left hemisphere. Then you can only ask the right hemisphere. Then you can take off the ways that you've avoided them interacting, and then they don't have a solid answer anymore.
And that exactly what that does is that, and that's why and that's what originally, just because this is the first episode, like why I was really keen on doing this podcast, because there's so many things like that I think of all the time, and I'm just like, whoa, like our version of reality is like,
we know nothing about how our reality works.
We know nothing. We know absolutely nothing. But that's especially like when it comes to the left and right brain. Like that is a fascinating thing because like without breaking a lot of like ethical codes, we can't really know.
Right.
I bet we could. I bet we could figure it out if we acted very inhumanely.
Well, actually, we have the Nazis to thank for a lot of the progress in this field.
Yeah.
Because they didn't care.
Great. So we started off with Freud and thanking the Nazis.
Number one podcast, week 1.
I guess, if we're going to get it out right now, huh? We might as well get it out on the first episode. But it's true, like, terrible things that, of course, we don't condone. But since it did happen, it's like, well, we can't take it back, so we might as well learn from it, since, you'll see what we can get. But, yeah, they performed terrible experiments on people.
They didn't care.
Yeah, no, they didn't. And
there was no ethics board.
Yeah, and that brings ethics. Ethics is another one of our topics. Like we will get into.
That's a lot to another really big one.
It is another really big one. But when it comes to questioning reality, is that how important is it that we understand reality?
Are you? Is that an open-ended question? Or are you trying to be like?
Well, it's like hypothetically, asking you and asking myself and our listeners, like,
because I have an opinion, and I'm like, are you asking that to leave that, like, let that resonate? Because I have an opinion.
I was giving it space, but now that you ruined my space, and the whole vibe is gone, so you might as well just start answering it.
I've actually I've been studying Immanuel Kant recently. I've been studying Hackett, and I've been studying a lot on like how knowledge works, how we learn things, and then also in my other like apologetic studies that I do for me and my other stuff, I'm really coming to a place of I am extremely confident that we have absolutely no clue as a species how this universe works. We have no clue how we as individuals work.
Yeah.
And I think we've came a long way is such a ridiculous statement. Like, we've gotten nowhere. Like, on the topic, we have gotten nowhere.
Yeah, when you back out, and that's like the thing is that I think that's currently the thing that makes me upset with like current, not even just like politics, but society, is that people get upset that things aren't changing in a year, and I'm like that's like a year is nothing for change to happen. Like that is such a quick time for society and humanity in general to change. Even on a small scale, even if you look at a single like town, like I live in Texas now, I just moved from California. And the one big difference here is just from people talking, since I'm in Austin, it's a pretty big, in a liberal city. So like, but a lot of the towns nearby, like the town I went to for Thanksgiving, like traditions and like everything are there, and they've been there, and they've just been like passed down from family to family, and it hasn't changed. The way they make food, the way they do things, like doesn't really change. And it either takes a huge outside force like an apocalypse, or it just changes generally. And you can see it, like obviously there's been general slow changes. We don't gather around a radio anymore. We gather around a TV, those kinds of things. People are on their phones by themselves, and people don't think they're that weird. Like,
right.
But
there's a Steve Jobs quote for that. Most people overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what will happen in 5.
Yeah.
Right.
That's actually a good. I haven't think I've heard that.
It's Steve Jobs.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah. That's actually pretty good. Yeah. I would say like 100, but I guess 5. I guess 5 is fine too.
The whole point he's pointing out is development of any form is an exponential model.
Right.
So the start is slow, and then it gets to a point where it's uncontrollable.
I mean, just like the internet, right?
Right.
Like that's what happened.
Right, and the internet's nowhere near as old as anybody feels like it is at this point.
Yeah, no, it feels like we've had it forever. Well, especially us because we kind of grew up with it. Did you have dial-up growing up?
I did.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so you're that age. When did your family, when was the first computer in your life?
I do not remember not having one.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because when I was really little, my mom was in school. She was going back to school. Oh, okay. So she had a computer, and I don't remember not having one.
Because I remember I was very little. Like, I was very, very little. I was probably around 3 or so when I remember, like, slowly getting computer and internet and all that stuff. But I remember the first electronic I ever got was an iPod Shuffle. Do you remember those?
Like I remember what they were, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was. I was given it as a gift from an uncle. And we all opened it and we looked at it and we went, "What is this?" We had no idea what this piece of technology were, and the fact that it had space for 200 songs or like something like that. Like
awesome.
We were blown away.
Yeah.
I had Walkmans. I listened to music on Walkmans for years, carrying them around. I had a carrier pouch that slipped into my belt. Oh yeah.
You were the cool kid.
Oh, I was so cool. I was so uncool. I was the most uncool kid. And I still am a little bit. When it comes to thought, I mean, we talked a little bit about like left and right brain.
Yeah.
Because I know a bit about that and I'm passionate about that. What about like what else though about like thought that is puzzling? Because I know there's so much, and I'm sure you have stuff written down.
Like I said, I've been studying a lot of people on like how we learn. And thought in general. There's one thing that I kind of like and that I enjoy is Albert Einstein, the way that he would talk about the imagination. Mm-hmm. So there's a section where Einstein's writing about imagination. There's 2 points that he makes that are just really stand out to me. But he talks about how imagination is greater than knowledge.
Okay.
He says imagination is more important than knowledge. I don't know how he words it. It's that kind of an idea. And then later in his writing, he says that knowledge is very big and very important. Imagination more so. And
okay.
So you can make points about how a lot of times when we change the way we think of the world, which is imagination, it's how we think, we can then go and create things to satisfy that. And I'm talking about the, let's just say the idea of finding out that the sun does not move around the earth, right? Well, somebody looked up at the stars and decided to do the math to see if that was a true statement, right? So before they can do the work to find the knowledge, they had to think that what we used to think might not be true.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They had to look at it and be like, we should check that. And that's a very big idea. We were a geocentric philosophy for hundreds of years. Possibly thousands, but I can't claim to know history.
Me neither.
Right?
I know nothing.
There used to be a belief among philosophers of antiquity, philosophers of before the Renaissance,
of the olden days. Yes,
of the olden days. There used to be a very standard belief system. They were all Christians of some form for a very long time, because otherwise they were killed.
The philosophers.
For a very long time.
Which philosopher do you know?
Because I mean Galileo.
Oh, okay, like that. Okay, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think of people before Christ, none of them were.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking of Greek philosophers. I'm like, I don't.
No.
I don't think so.
So I mean, Da Vinci,
right,
Newton, they were all Christians. Otherwise, they were killed. But there was a very long-standing idea that heaven was perfect and therefore unchanging, but Earth was constantly evolving. And there were debates about the idea of whether or not the Earth was evolving towards heaven or towards hell. That was this debate.
I've never heard this, and how have I never what?
I don't. I can give you sources, but it's very vague to me because I'm
not doubting you,
right.
And also, by the way, when I googled left and right brain, the first thing I got was a TED talk that says left versus right brain myth. So everything I said might have been wrong.
I mean, we're talking about the way we think.
Right? Yeah.
We are wrong.
That's going in the channel trailer right there. We're wrong.
Yes. We do not claim to be experts on what we're talking about. We just claim to enjoy the conversation.
Exactly. We're probably wrong. Write us. I don't know. Do we have it? Oh, we don't. Do we have an email?
We don't have an email right now.
Let's say overthinkingpodcast@gmail.com for right now until we.
That'll work.
Yeah.
We can do that for now.
Yeah.
Watch us do that, and then that's already taken somehow.
Right, exactly. So this random person just gets touched. Of course, because we're famous.
Right. Day one, we're gonna have an audience of 10,000. It's gonna be great.
Of course. Do you expect anything less? But that is interesting. That idea of philosophy having that metaphysical aspect to it, which seems, I don't know, that seems kind of anti-philosophy because from when I think of philosophy, I think of something outside of everything else. It's just, human. It's basically looking at the world and saying, okay, let's understand it.
I think there's a lot of evidence to claim that a lot of philosophers were Christians.
Right.
As in, they were not Christians.
Right.
They were philosophers. They were seeking the truth. And in their writing, they would sprinkle in the right words so that the Pope wouldn't excommunicate them.
Oh, okay. I see.
I think there's a lot of that.
So do you think maybe when they say heaven and hell, they just mean good or bad?
Yeah, and I really do. And
okay.
Even to that, I mean,
any philosopher,
you can be a philosopher and a legitimate Christian, right? But today we wouldn't want those studies to overlap.
No, yeah.
And back then it was wrong if they didn't.
Yeah, well, because it was a government.
Right. So with that polling, one of the big changes in thought that philosophers had came from being able to study the moon and seeing that the moon wasn't perfect. Because the moon was in heaven.
That's right, because they had the idea that outside that the sky was heaven. That's right. They took it literally, like
Right.
up in the sky.
And it's just so interesting to see how like this way that we perceive the world influences the things that we learn about the world that then change the way we perceive the world.
Yeah. Though I will say, as a counter argument, how can you say that the moon is imperfect? Like, what would be a perfect moon?
Well, so like just seeing the enormous numbers of craters on the other side of the moon that we can't see with the naked eye.
That's funny though. They would call craters imperfect. Huh.
Yeah.
So I guess so. Like, if they were alive today, they'd be like one of those Instagram models who just Photoshop themselves to be perfectly. Anyway, that is not at all relevant.
Especially like now that we've actually done enough that we can study the size of the craters and what caused them, and realize that the moon has saved us from mass extinction probably several times since humans have been here. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The moon's dope. I'll be the first to say that. Hey, hot take, moon's dope.
So the interesting thing, and really why I've been fascinated by this idea of there's multiple parts of the way our brain works, right? Mm-hmm. Is because I've been studying it and I've been testing it out, and maybe this can be my little whatever you want at the beginning. What were those called?
Oh, like a stinger, like an intro.
No. What did you call it in the? Oh, here, I'll find the outline. The Secrets Uncovered.
Secrets Uncovered. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
This is like a personal development hack that I've been trying out, and it's really, really working.
Okay.
So there's this notion. I heard somebody speaking on it, and I fully disagreed with him so strongly that I have to start with him. But the speaker was talking about. There's the impulsive side of you, and then there's like the controlled side of you. Mm-hmm. And he was just dumbing down System 1 and System 2. And and that's what he's going with, right? And he was talking about how when you're trying to develop a skill, the natural thing that you want to do is treat the impulsive side of you as something that the conscious side of you is supposed to cage and control. And it should be locked up. And it should never get to do what it wants. And then if it ever breaks out and does anything bad, then you need to punish the conscious side of you for not doing his job. Like, this is the way that this is the balance we tend to have. And this is why we I should not do that bad thing. And then when that bad thing happens, you're like, I'm a terrible person. Because you're talking about the System 2 when it was System 1 that did it.
Who is saying this again?
I'm pretty sure it's a TED Talk. I can find you the TED Talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's recent. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking this is like an old school dude.
No, this is like a TED Talk. No, he's talking about the internal battle that we have.
Right.
And then just the way we feel guilty when things go wrong.
Yeah.
And then we're like the negative self-talk that comes and everything like that, right? And he's like, and he explains, he's like, the problem here is there is your subconscious mind, this thing that you want to treat as a slave, basically, is just as strong as your conscious mind. It's just as smart as your conscious mind. It has all the tools your conscious mind has. In all reality, this should be a 50-50 fight. You should lose half the time. Because everything's held equal. So you're getting mad at your conscious self for losing a fight that it was statistically probably going to lose.
Then
I
have mixed feelings about that.
Then his self-correct was... You need to stop seeing it as a this or that and start finding middle grounds with the both sides. So like reward systems and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so compromise. He's like, you don't want to fight, you want to compromise. Right. I hated everything he said.
Yeah. I don't, yeah.
But it got me thinking. And it got me thinking because I was already studying this stuff about the levels of the mind anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And if you want to be somebody who's... If there's something you want to get better at, well, that's one part of you that wants to get better at it. And if the other parts of your mind don't want to get better at it, it probably will be hard. So... if there's a way that you can communicate with all the pieces of your mind and get every piece of your mind to agree on something, that would make change, right? This is the thought process I'm having.
Yeah.
And so I've started, I meditate. I hope you meditate. I hope everyone listening meditates. Meditating is important. It helps. But
I've added too many times, but
me too. But I've added something to my meditation where if there's something in my life that I'm trying to grow in, or something in my life I'm trying to stop doing, I've added to my meditation a point of self-talk where I talk to myself, I talk to my mind, and I'm like, these are the things that I want to change. And then I ask my mind the open-ended question, do you want to change with me? Or something like that. And then in my mind, I picture different levels of my mind, different parts, different entities, just saying, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And it's the weirdest thing how dramatically this has helped.
Huh.
It's like getting all the levels of my mind to agree on an idea and then moving towards that idea.
That's very interesting. Because, so I'm going to liken this. So this is like, I think as a like allegory, something to relate it to, is that a common meditation practice is to like work your way up your body, like start at your feet and then feel it, let the tension go, and slowly like work your way up, right? And like what that's reminding me of that. I was like, what if we could apply it to the mind as well? Like, is there a similar process of where we could start with the mind and where we could end? You know, of like working through, feeling like where it's at, letting it like feeling it, understanding it, like maybe like moving it, relaxing, you know, whatever it is. And then in a way, it's like a mental massage of just moving throughout your mind.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if like that's what your unconscious and well, your subconscious and your conscious and your that's what it is. Conscious and subconscious kind of are, or the id, the ego, and the superego of like moving towards. Because I'm thinking, because like the whole thing about like 50-50, I found that like I was like, what? Or like, and like tackling your unconscious, because I am like, especially as I have like done more and been out in the world more, I've been a huge fan of letting your unconscious reign free a little bit, you know, like, and I think that if you have a strong foundation of your conscious, then it's a lot harder for your unconscious to do something like immoral or wrong, right? Or hurt someone or yourself, because you have that foundation already built up. That's what bothered me. That's what bothered me about that talk. And if I watch that, I'm gonna get angry. But
well, the first time I watched it, my very first takeaway from it was, I feel like this guy has crafted a very intelligent excuse to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and or have an excuse, and that's the thing. When it comes to like thought and moving and like and that kind of thing, is that a lot of the things that we think of, like you and I, like everybody does, is a lot of the things that we think are just excuses to keep on doing what's comfortable for us, or let the unconscious reign, or let the id, right? Let the id reign.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's why I discount a lot of talks like that, because I'm just kind of like, okay, it sounds interesting and it's kind of new, and I can't like logically go against that. But like, what would my life be if I actually followed that advice? And that's what
I can logically go against that, but
I mean, I can't. I'm saying I don't have the resources available to.
No.
Like, I can't tell you for a fact that it's not a 50-50 split. Like, I don't have that.
Oh, right. And I don't think that anybody could say for a fact it is.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I'm like, I'm like, everything about that talk makes me angry.
And I mean, Freud honestly thought that the ego was way weaker than the id anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's what I think that too. Like, I think your subconscious, I mean, it's the thing about your subconscious is that it's instinct, right?
Right.
And instinct is older than anything else, you know, about your mind. And so, yeah, so I mean, and that's why, like, it's really interesting for me was studying the different parts of your brain, like, let's say, like, the part they call your reptilian brain.
Right.
Basically,
I almost brought that up, and I decided not to. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess we could go in more detail maybe later, but it was very interesting to me to learn about the different parts of your brain and how they respond to stimuli.
Right.
Whereas your reptilian brain is like hungry, eat, do this, go here, uncomfortable, like get comfortable, like all of those different things, danger, run or freeze, you know, like, and it's so powerful because not only is it old, but it's fast, like you're talking about, right? Is that the instinct is so fast, and like you find yourself doing something before you are able to think about it,
right?
Before the signal is actually getting to there and like processing.
Right, you can read things before your conscious mind decides whether or not you want to, right?
Exactly. And everything because I think, and also when it comes to thought, I mean, if you look at this from a purely, what is, I don't even know the word, biological level, I guess, neurological, I don't know. Like the reason thought exists is to keep you alive, right? To prolong the species, right? If you look at it from a purely biological level, right?
Especially if you're talking about the reptilian brain, that level of thought for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking, well, honestly, I think on all levels. And you can, I mean, if you want to refute me on that after I say my piece, go ahead. That's what this is about. But if it's simply to keep you alive and prolong the species and keep good genes in the gene pool, then a lot of the things that we strive for, such as like noble things, such as sacrifice and greater ideals, those don't make any sense. And so in a way, you find yourself fighting against, morality in a sense, at least from what I find. And again, right, I'm not an expert in this. I might be making this up. I don't know. But from everything that I've learned, everything I know from examining the world and, just, talking to so many people about their different issues and stuff like that and coaching people, that's kind of what I see is that, you need to learn how to fight. And especially myself is it's constant just, I need to actually fight against my instincts for self-preservation, because those will keep me away from everybody and lead a terrible, awful life.
Right, but I would argue that's a great example. You kind of just refuted yourself.
Did I?
Yeah. If you have to fight your instincts of self-preservation because it would lead to a lower quality life, then it's not just preserving life that you're fighting for.
Wait, what?
Luke quote.
Honestly, I just kind of see, this is the problem, is that a lot of the things that when we talk on our own, when we're talking about this podcast, is we have so many conversations on our own, and sometimes it just lead to this point where I'm just honestly, I don't even know what I said. I was just talking and having a good old time. I'm here with my buddy, just having a good old time. And I'm wait a minute, I need to make sense for other people now. Oh no.
Well, I will always call you out.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Tell me I'm overthinking it, right? Haha, I got to use the catchphrase first.
I thought you were supposed to.
Oh, I what? Oh, really? Oh, no.
Isn't that the signal to move on?
It was, huh? I
Yeah.
forgot. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really you can tell how I'm very in depth about this, because I
Smooth
forgot
transition.
that we're recording a podcast for a couple minutes there. I kind of blacked out and just zeroed in.
No, there was a point, no joke, because I'm in a sunroom. There's a point,
Yeah.
a squirrel ran by, and I literally was watching a squirrel. So, squirrel.
Literal squirrel moment.
Yep.
Anyway, but okay, so what were we even going through? Oh, about reptilian brain. So anyway,
Right.
I think just to close that off on my side, I think that I think it's important in general, talking about the looking at your body and examining your body from during, let's say, meditation, right?
Yeah.
And learning what your body's going through, so you don't ignore the good things or the bad things. I think it's the same thing with your brain, is to go through your mind and go through, well, what are my instincts? What am I feeling doing? What do I desperately instinctually want? Okay, what do I want on a higher level? And maybe what do I want on an even higher level? And kind of going through those is a very healthy thing, so that way you're caught off guard during different situations. You're not caught off guard in different situations.
Did you just make an argument for finding your why?
A little bit on a more. I think on a more
trying to dig deeper.
Deeper.
Let's not cut that one.
No, we're not. Yeah, in a sense, finding your why, but also not necessarily finding it, but just examining what you are thinking about and feeling in the moment.
Ooh.
So it's not trying to look forward, but just stay in the moment and understand what's going on.
I think not finding your why, experiencing it. Yes.
That should have been our podcast name. What are we doing? No, that wouldn't fit. Experiencing your why.
Yeah. And
that's
it.
Yeah,
experiencing yourself and experiencing what makes you tick. we're talking about the real values of meditation right now.
Which is funny because we started off on like, what is thought? And now we're on, hey, here's the values of meditation. But I
had a list. My big point was to get to...
Check it twice.
My big point was to get to understanding the different parts of our brain that are part of our conscious brain, subconscious brain, the way we think.
Okay.
And aligning those. So my notes led to meditation anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up there. Wow. I don't know whether it was you guiding me or we just lucked into that, but I'll give you all the credit.
Maybe it's just a natural progression of when you're talking about it.
Ooh.
Maybe
we just got meta. We just got into like Inception level, just another level of deep.
Yeah. If you're listening to this first episode, first off, thank you for being here. Secondly, can you try to track how many layers deep we are on the meta framework at this point, and just like comment and let us know? Because I can't keep track.
I can't. Have you seen that website? It's one of my favorite websites, and all it does is it tracks the levels of Inception. And you literally just scroll, and it guides you through the movie and where they're at. And then it's so well done. And it's beautiful. Like, the graphics are really great. But it's such an interesting thing to see because that's one of my favorite movies. It's just the theories and all the stuff that goes on. And
do you enjoy it because of the movie or because of the premise of the movie?
All of it. I think it's all great. The soundtrack is amazing. I love myself a soundtrack. But everything, like I really love everything about it. It's so well filmed. It's very well directed. It does creative things with its camera work and with its story and how that relates to the filming and directing, and the writing. I'm a big fan of the movie. We should have a live watch because we can do like a live watch and then comment on it.
That'd be great. We should do this.
That's actually an interesting idea. Anyway, let's start another podcast.
Every time we start a new podcast, we're gonna build a new podcast anyway.
Another layer deep. We just call it Inception Level 1 and Inception Level 2. Just keep on going deeper.
Yes.
That sounds like an awful idea. But so I mean that's really can we say it? Are we overthinking?
Yeah, I feel like we've overthought this concept. What did you want to talk about?
We've overthought it.
Yeah.
So I think mine it is kind of relating to it when it comes to questioning reality.
I'm hoping it's nowhere near as meta, nowhere near as deep.
It's
my mental energy.
It's a little okay. This is more fun, I'll say.
Cool.
So, if you know me, I love myself some Elon Musk.
All right.
And something that he sparked in me, I want to say last year or 2 years ago, is the theory of of simulation, right? Of course, I've already thought about it, like everyone kind of does, but I've never heard the argument before. Kind of like the scene in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in Narnia, where he said either he's lying, either he imagined it, or he's telling the truth, right? Or something like that, whatever the argument is. That was my first introduction to critical thinking. Was that movie? It's hilarious.
Ooh.
Isn't that ironic? That movie
because of that scene.
Yeah, because of that scene. That was awesome. The first time I ever thought about. If you just have your options and you whittle it down, you're left with one option. And even though you can't prove that one option is true, it is the only option, so therefore it must be true, right?
Right. It's a Sherlock Holmes quote. Once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's another, and that's also a great quote that moved me along. But his argument, which I've never seen before, and I can't believe I never saw it before, was either we're not living in a simulation now, and we're never able to build a simulation like the Matrix, right? Which is improbable, right? That will never, ever be able to build with how fast technology is advancing, right? Or we're not living in a simulation now, or in the future, we're able to build a simulation, but we decide not to, right? For whatever moral or lawful reasons, right? Also, very improbable. Or we don't live in a simulation now, and in the future, we do live in a simulation and we create it. Did I already say that one? Was that my first one? I've lost
I don't know.
Whatever. And then the last one.
Let us know in the comment. Did we lose track?
Yeah. Or the last one. See, that's why I need to write these down because I forget what I've already
That's why I
listed.
wrote things down.
Yeah, I know. I have a... I don't.
Oh.
But, or...
See this? See that? I am 2 weeks behind, so I'm gonna start eating chocolate while you're...
So okay, for all our listeners who don't watch the video up on YouTube at Overthinking Podcast on YouTube,
I have a countdown calendar.
He has a countdown calendar, and
Mickey Mouse.
It's Mickey Mouse,
and I just opened it today.
And it's like the quintessential kids advent calendar. Advent calendar to Christmas. Oh, they call it holiday countdown calendar.
It's an advent calendar.
It's because it's Disney.
Yeah.
And he's going to be eating the chocolate in there because he's 2 weeks behind. Well, I'm giving my discussion, even though I was listening and not eating anything while he was giving his for 50 minutes. So
you think I can't listen and eat at the same time?
Yes. Although I can't do two things at once. Those look like Legos, by the way. I just saw you eat a Lego.
Yeah, it's not good chocolate. I'm not going to catch up.
There's so many things I want to mention, but I won't. I thought that you thought a Disney calendar for kids would have good chocolate in it. Anyway, the final option, right? So either we're not living a simulation and we create it later. We're not living a simulation and we cannot create it later. We're not living a simulation and we don't create it later because of ethical, moral, lawful reasons. Or we're living a simulation now.
Mm-hmm.
And the argument is that we'll never, like the first one, that we'll never be able to create it. Like, yeah, right. Like, look how fast technology has advanced in 30
Doubles
years.
every 18 months.
Yeah. Imagine we'll be like in 1,000 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, that's not true. That we create it and that we don't use it for moral or ethical reasons. First of all, even if there was, let's say, like a galaxy-wide rule that you can't create a simulation, not everyone's gonna follow. Like, not everyone's gonna follow that. You could still be a test subject in there. Mm-hmm. So that is out. So it leaves us with two options. Either we're not living a simulation now, and we do create it later, or we're living in a simulation now. And the argument is that it's much more likely that we're living in a simulation now because of simply of time. Is that we're looking. There's so much opportunity. No, wait. I messed up my own argument. We could be living. So the idea. Oh, that's what it is. So the idea is that we have to ignore time and what time we're at now because we can't know. So because time is so large, as far as we can see, it never ends. Right? In the future.
In one direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So because of that. The possibility that we are living in a time where they do have a simulation and we're in it is so likely versus being in the one time, like in the one out of an almost infinite timeline where we're not. Right? That's the argument.
I can see that argument.
It's possible, right, that we are. But that led me to doing some more research on theories of reality. Which I want to go through, and I want to get your opinion on which one you find most interesting and believable. So, one is
theory of time.
A theory of time. What?
Yeah. A theory of time. If you're going to talk about reality, you're talking about time.
Well, yes.
A theory of time. I adhere to it. B theory seems ridiculous.
Oh, you mean like you're talking about? Wait, you're talking about the simulation thing? What do you mean A theory versus B theory of time?
There's two proposed theories of time. As far as how time works.
Yeah. One is that it's happening literal, one that's happening right now, all at once?
Yeah, no? So A theory of time is such that the way we perceive time is the way that time operates.
Right, okay.
B theory of time is that time is more lucid. So in this theory, there is the notion that it happens simultaneously. Right. There's also the notion that it happens cyclically. There's the notion that it's more lucid. Overall. And I don't know enough B theory because on its premise, it's obnoxious and absurd.
Well, you can't know. Like, that's the thing.
Okay.
So
most of the people I subscribe to A theory.
Okay. Yeah, and that kind of plays into this. So, and also for the listeners, because I didn't know like the words for these before. So I've heard of this. So you've probably heard of a lot of these. What is solipsism? I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
I've not.
You have
Nope.
not. I get to teach Devin something. Yeah, that's not related to like marketing and business. Cool. My total brat just came out. That, but
Like, jab.
But so basically, it's a theory that everything else in your life is illusion, even your own physical body. So basically, you could be a brain in a vat. And there was an interesting. So I'm gonna explain this.
I am familiar with this.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people are familiar with the idea, just not the name. But I think it's important. Like when you're talking about things, if you have words to describe it, it makes it a lot easier. And if you're both on the same page, then you're not like arguing semantics and not even arguing the point, or debating, I should say, not arguing. Don't argue. Like have thoughtful debates. That's better.
Well, honestly, too, if you're personal advice, ever having a serious conversation with anybody on philosophy, theology, any high level thinking, if you're not sure that you're using the terms equally, ask them what they mean and then use their definition.
Yeah, exactly. And people, I mean, I hate in the debates when people just start arguing against, like, well, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, you know what I mean. Now I'm like, I hate it when people respond like that. I'm like, no, like take a second, clarify, and then you can actually have thoughtful. That's usually when they're losing and they don't want to, and they just want to.
I have a lot of conversations with people where just something, because this is in my world, like they claim to be an atheist.
Right.
And I asked them to define atheist, and what they define is not an atheist.
Yeah.
But I now use that version of atheism in our conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's easier.
It's easier, but
right.
And then you have an opportunity later to be like, okay, by the way, like most people, like
classical definition of atheism.
Classical definition is different than what you're using it as. Right. Like Gnostic versus agnostic, all that kind of stuff. But an interesting thing, and this is a little stupid, okay? I will say. The reason why I don't really believe this, or like there's half, okay? The main reason why I don't really believe this is because there's a book or novella. There's a novella by Brandon Sanderson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called, I don't even remember what it's called. But basically it's set in like the medieval times, and there's this knight, and like he has this like strange like magical power, and he's like the king over everyone, right? And he has his kingdom, right? But like weird things start happening, and then he starts talking about like breaks like in his kingdom, and then you find out later that they're all just brains in jars, and they're given this kingdom to rule where they're the hero, and they get to be the hero in whichever way that they want. Like their greatest desires are filled out, and then they're given like reasonable challenges to keep themselves interested in. So they'll have like an invader from a different land, and like, oh, I don't know how to deal with this. Okay, like it's exciting. So basically, they live hundreds and hundreds of years. At least this person was, I think, like 300 years old or something. And it finally kind of goes through him like discovering other people in different worlds and talking with them about their experiences. But that is kind of like I think like of like, okay, if I'm a brain in a jar, either I'm being having an experiment that's terrible. So like I'm like either, like the chances of a terrible person doing an experiment on me if I'm a brain in a jar are smaller than actually like a decent person or a regular like a not good or bad person, right? So that's partially my optimism for the world and for human beings in general. Which is, I know, it's not at all logical, but that's my reason for why I personally don't believe this is real. But anyway, just going through them, and then I want your opinion on which one you think is the most realistic to you. And the other course is simulation, where you and maybe everybody's real, but your situation's not, like, or maybe some people are fake and some people are real. It's kind of like that. Like we don't know, we don't know what's around us. This person's probably real, but I don't know. Then idealism is, the world around you exists. Okay, I wanted to separate. I want to make sure I was getting it right. So according to this theory, the consciousness existed before the physical world and serves as the origin of like material existence. So the world around you exists because you perceive it. to exist. And reality is entirely subjective and reliant on your perception of the mind. So basically, you're kind of like a God figure where you perceive things and you believe them to be true because you're perceiving them. I know of no logical, like no argument to actually argue for this. So that's something that I was like, oh, interesting. That's actually a thing that people consider. But I guess, we need to consider all the options. Eternalism is that idea that everything is happening at once and there's no free will because literally everything happens. And the way that we exist is perceiving that everything happening at once in a timeline, even though it's actually not. In reality, it's not. In a way, it's almost like the ultimate super slow-mo, right? Where we're going throughout the world, but in the grand scheme of reality, looking as an outsider outside of reality, you would see it happen instantaneously, which is interesting to me. And then, of course, then there's presentism that argues that because you can't prove that the future and the past exist, the only reality is the present. Right. Well, so the past and the future are literally just imagined. Mm-hmm. So just from that comment, I see you seem to be kind of passionate about presentism.
No, I was just concluding the statement.
Oh, okay, got it. But out of those, and if you want me to go through them again, I will.
So no, I'm good. I got you. I don't know what you call the one that's the quintessential brain in a vat. I don't know its technical term, but
that's solipsism.
Okay, say it one more time.
Solipsism.
Solipsism?
Yep. Okay. I had to look it up to see how it's pronounced.
That's one that I've had a lot of discussion on, and here, philosophically speaking, the brain in the vat theory is the ultimate skeptic's positioning.
Right.
You can't prove
one
anything.
End of the spectrum.
Right. You can't prove anything to the ultimate skeptic with the brain in the vat. Mm-hmm. That's not actually a true statement. I just lied. That's a perceived perception that people have. If you believe that you're a simulation, I can't prove you otherwise, right?
Right.
That's actually where the phrase "I think, therefore I am" came into being. Mm-hmm. I can't prove anything except that I exist.
Right.
I can't prove how I look or how I feel, but I am here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you are.
Right.
But if I didn't exist, there would be no thing to think, do I exist?
Exactly.
So the argument against, okay, that's the one thing you can prove to the ultimate skeptic. Mm-hmm. When Locke determined that, he then created some necessary corollaries following it. And I don't follow or adhere to all of them, but he concluded from the premise, I must exist, that reality is as we perceive it. Like, he went through a logical conditioning, and I think there were a few holes, which is why I'm not going to point every corollary. Yeah. But he believed that he could get back from pure existence to reality. The argument that I usually use against the brain in the vat theory is actually idealism.
Okay.
If you are a brain in a vat living in this reality, then because you're a brain in a vat that's creating and imagining, you are the God of the universe that you perceive. Mm-hmm. You should be able to interact with it on that level, and simply having that awareness should do something, kind of like lucid dreaming.
Oh.
So I very quickly discredit brain in a vat versus traditional simulation.
See, that's an actual, I love that. That's a testament to our personalities. I come in with this story about this book that I read and how it's it's unlikely because I believe all humans, like most humans, are good, and you come in with an actual logical argument. I have a feeling that's going to be a reoccurring segment.
If anyone's paying super close attention, you actually used abductive reasoning and I used deductive reasoning, but they're both proper thought processes.
We should, honestly, I think we should spend, a good chunk of an episode about different reasoning techniques. I got a great episode idea. I'll discuss it to you off air because I don't want to ruin it.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm the idea guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's actually really interesting because when I was young, I was really freaked out. And I had a ton of mental problems as a kid. Still do, but they're better now. But especially as a kid, I had a real crisis when I was probably 8 or so. I was really young where I realized I saw out of my eyes. And that's how I verbalized it. And I still remember that moment it's a very vivid memory to me. for a while, I was totally freaked out because I had that realization that I saw out of my eyes, and I was like, what if I didn't exist? Would I see out of someone else's eyes? Where, like, nobody, like, see, like, and so that, like, actually, I was like that young, and that I started thinking, I started, like, trying to logic that since I see out of my eyes, like, somebody must be seeing out of their eyes to view reality. Kind of like, because I was young, I wasn't able to comprehend a lot of things. And so I thought, like, oh, I'm the main character. So because I see out of my eyes, when I die, I have to be reborn because someone has to be seeing out of their eyes. And I thought, like, I have to be that, right? So there was a very, like, interesting way of, like, very crudely, like, logicking, like, about the existence of reality. Like, when I was that young, and I'll never forget, like, that phrase still, like, it gives me goosebumps because I remember, like, how, like, like a crazy revelation it was for me to, like, think about that and think about, like, oh, other people exist. I have no idea whether they're real or not. Which probably didn't help my mental state at all now that I think about it. That's probably not a good thing for me.
Probably not.
Saying that out loud. Probably talk to somebody about that. Well, now I just did, I guess. That's interesting, though. You use idealism to counteract solipsism.
Yes. Because I think solipsism would result in idealism. And idealism is a self-contradiction based on your own experience. So... and then that leaves, like, true simulation, which is this world's been built and we've been put in it in such a sense, right?
Right.
Which I guess you could argue that simulation is also, like, theism.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, the thing with simulation is that, see, that's the thing. So I came to this conclusion. I was like, you know what? Whether we're living a simulation or not, I can't affect it.
Yes.
Because I can't affect it, why on earth would I worry and care about it?
Yes. So there's the classical response to the notion of simulation, which simulation, I mean, everything we're talking about is the most extreme version of a skeptic to reality.
Right.
But the standard response to the notion of simulation is, by principle, it is unprovable.
Yeah.
By nature, it is undefendable. By practice, it's also impossible to disprove it. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to, like, show that it can't be true. And it's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether or not it's true does not affect you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it will never impact you. So the most logical way to handle it is to say, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the general response to it.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm actually curious to on your idea of presentism, like where the past and future don't exist because we can't prove it.
The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. And I would take it
Look
to...
Look at you just pulling out these quotes. I didn't know that you had that in you. Wow. Cheers to that.
Thank you. I adhere very much to, like, Occam's razor.
Yeah.
The simplest explanation is the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And then additionally, I mean, the most sophisticated version of Occam's razor is, once you have necessary and sufficient conditions for an event, the event occurs. Therefore, you will never have more than what's necessary and sufficient. Right?
Okay.
And that's... I can see that being valuable in future tense. My pullback to it is we can't prove it, we can't disprove it, but with abductive reasoning, we only draw one possible conclusion. All the evidence points towards the past and the future being real. There is no counter-evidence. No, we can't prove it, it's not definitive, but it's the argument of the best explanation that leads it to the past and the future are real.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
The same way, that's the same kind of thinking as I walk into my office and I see that papers are scattered on the floor and my window's open and it's windy and I think the wind blew the papers on the floor.
Right.
Do I know for a fact? No. For all I know, a bird flew in there, threw the papers around, flew out.
Yeah. Or they came to
But
life.
it's the best explanation given the evidence, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And see, that's why I like talking with you. And that's really as far as my topic goes. That's why I say like you go first. That's gonna be the meat. Because this one, it's something I love thinking about, and it's just a fun little thing. I wanted to be the first thing I talked about because it's something that it's my favorite. The thing I talk about next, the next week, that's gonna be my real gritty favorite thing because it gets real, people. So a little teaser for next time. It's gonna get real. I'm gonna tell you this. We're gonna have some fun with real situations. I'm making it sound terrible. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not advertising very well. It's gonna be fun. Because that's a real goal. I mean, especially with me, I love philosophy and talking about this kind of stuff. So by having some fun with it, having some just good conversation, that's what I love doing. And Devin's giving a little thumbs up, I think, or he was just resting his hand and stretching it.
No, I'm digging through.
Yeah, what are you doing over there? I'm covering for you, by the way, just talking.
Yeah, you are.
I know. I got your back. See?
I'm digging through Hackett's The Resurrection of Theism. Part 1 is Rational Empiricism, but there's and I know I'm saying
I don't know
big
any
words.
of the words that you just said.
I know. I'm looking for a list that I know he has in here somewhere because I wanted to give the whole list before I explained, because you were talking earlier about the eye thing, right?
Yeah.
Empirical monism. It's the idea that what we see is reality. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of ways of like how do we interact with reality is basically what these theories are. And I couldn't find the list and I gave up on it, so I'm just going to talk about monism. But it's one that I never realized that I adhere to until I read it academically and then realized how ludicrous it is.
Interesting.
So it's the notion that what we see, what we interact with is actually reality, right?
Okay, yeah.
So anybody at home can do this. We can disprove monism really quickly. Take your index finger, point at the corner of your eye, and watch how things double. Are there two things in reality now?
I hate that you just made me do that. I'm really upset. I was genuinely very curious about what you're gonna do, and that was so simple that I'm mad. That was way too simple.
Right.
Okay,
so
fine.
Monism is what affects our senses is reality, and then it's so easy to disprove.
Well,
so
especially
clearly,
with schizophrenics and
right,
hallucinations.
exactly, right. And I mean simple colorblindness, right?
Yeah.
Is their reality literally different than mine? I don't think so.
Well, what is color? Next topic. Anyway, I think do we have that on our list? Because I think I put it.
No, I don't think we do.
I'll put it on there.
Okay.
That's gonna be fun.
And so there's this idea that seems to be more appropriate that there is some form of a mediary in our mind between reality and our perception of it. It's like we translate what hits our senses. Right?
Yeah. The mind. That was my favorite part about studying psychology was the actual biology of the brain. Because the rest of psychology is all a lot of theories. That some of them are. I mean, there's so few rules in psychology. Because
psychology is like 100 years old and it's been flipped on its head like 5 times.
Yeah, more. Like there's so many things that have been changed in psychology because personally, also it's kind of unethical to do a lot of the studies that we want to do.
Right. If we want to figure this out, we have to do things that are wrong.
Yeah. You have to separate twins at birth, treat one terribly, treat one great, see what happens. Those kinds of things, just abuse. Which, I mean, I think we're all like, we don't need that. It'd be nice to learn, but, we don't need to hurt people to learn that.
Not at least until we have a good simulation.
Well, even then that can... Well, I guess, if it's an AI, but then that relates into, are AIs human? Do we know?
It depends
if we torture
if you're going
an AI,
on the full level.
is it going to hurt?
Does this thing have feelings?
But how do we know it has feelings?
In Star Wars, they created droids with feelings, and that could feel pain, and then they destroy them, and it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what Star Wars you're talking about. Are you talking about the new stuff?
Just the movies, all the movies.
No, I mean like the new movies though are different because they have droids with like our actual people.
Watch
a little bit more.
the original trilogy
know.
and see how many times C-3PO gets scared.
Fine. I'll concede
Mic
that.
drop.
I'll concede that. Fine. I think that's a good place to end unless you have some more to go because we've been going over an hour right now.
I feel good.
Go ahead and talk.
No, I feel good.
I know. Yeah. I'm teasing. But thanks for sticking with us. If you reached the end, wow. I don't know why you did. But they're one of my favorite podcasts. It's a riddle
Luke
podcast.
hates our podcast.
Yeah, and they hate riddles. And the running joke is like, don't listen. Like, why on earth would you listen to us? Like, we're the worst. I don't even listen to this podcast. Like that's just the running joke, and it's hilarious. But they're much funnier than us, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully, I mean, we're doing this as a little bit of a test. I think it went really well, so we're gonna get a website up. It should be. I might edit this in later. Just do a go to ashamed. What is overthinking? I have so many podcasts.
Overthinkingpodcast.com.
Okay, what I'm saying is we might have a plugin, that just goes. Actually, it's overthinkingpodcast.com. That kind of thing.
Can we get Siri to do it for us?
Exactly. That's what I was. Yeah.
Okay.
So
or Alexa.
it might change because I'm pretty sure that website was available, but we're figuring this out. And if you want to send us ethical quandaries, experimental thoughts, all that fun stuff, you should be able to get us at overthinkingpodcast@gmail.com for right now. We might have a different thing that we'll just forward to it. We'll figure it out. But yeah, thank you. And I think as a final thought, did you want? I opened. So do you have a thought of the week that you want to leave them with? I know I didn't let you prep for this at all.
That wasn't even on the outline.
Yes, it is. There's a clear outline. If you access the outline right now,
I'm looking at it right now.
Look, we have the intro, the Secrets Uncovered. Each of us do a thought experiment, then thought of the week. Plain as day.
Okay, so how is Secrets Uncovered supposed to be different than thought of the week?
Thought of the week is like BX. No.
Okay, I got one then.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
This is a quote.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you said something.
I was just saying it's like a wrap up of what we've talked about. So it's like a review rather than Secrets Uncovered, just like, oh, this funny thing happened.
Okay, so thought of the week also has to be a wrap up.
I do whatever you want, dude. We get to, this is whatever we want. So we get to do whatever we want to do. No one controls us.
All right. Every moment of every day, you choose who you are and what you believe in. You get a second chance every second. Make the right choice.
Oh, wow. You went straight motivation there. I like it. Now, I don't want to undercut the good intention, but
bash it.
Thank you so much. We will be back, I think, next week. Should be. Yeah, let's just say that for right now. And if not, we get to do what we want. This podcast is for us and not you. So if we enjoy it, that's all we want, okay? We have these conversations anyway. We just decided to record them this time, okay? I'm being so antagonistic to anybody listening.
Well,
I'm straight up being mean.
Well, you know what? Honestly, this is not something that's going to be monetizable, and in any sense, as far as they're not paying customers at any point.
Yeah. This
is for us, and if they enjoy it, that's cool. We can build a fun community. And if we can't, then we can still have fun conversations.
Yeah. I mean, we could have an ad. I think we could have an ad.
No, on that level, yes. I just mean it's not like a marketing podcast. There's not at any point I'm not gonna hook you to.
You mean that monetize? Oh yeah, we're not trying to sell you on something unless
exactly.
Unless we write a book
I want you to have fun here
based on all the wisdom that we share.
Ooh, that could be fun.
That could be fun. Yeah. So yes, this podcast is a whole is part of our.
This is a marketing podcast.
This is a marketing podcast. Haha.
Tricked you, didn't I?
Do you want to do plugs? I didn't even think about this. Like where people can find you outside, or do you not care? Like your Facebook?
Not at this point. I mean, they can find me on Facebook at Devin Tracy.
Okay.
But at some point, when I have my other things established, I will want to throw in plugs.
Cool. Yeah, I want people
You
to
can
follow
give yourself
me.
some plugs now.
Yeah, follow me. I want Twitter followers because I want to get better at Twitter, but no one follows me really, so I have no motivation.
Well, it's Twitter.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty active on Instagram. Did you see my hilarious Instagram stories? Are you on Instagram at all?
I'm not on Instagram.
Oh, dude, you missed out. My brothers and I went mini golfing, and we literally did like stuff that was probably illegal to do on the mini golf field. We were doing all kinds of stuff. It was fun. We had a time. We were going wild, dying laughing. I filmed probably 20 Instagram stories, just throughout the time. So yeah, so if you want to see the lighter side of life, that's what I do. To all the people, I love that. I think the first people listening are not gonna already know me. The thought, it's such a funny thought. I'm you guys have made it this far, an hour and 20 minutes into the podcast. You know who I am. You know, you already follow me on Instagram, and I probably follow you back. Anyway, thanks so much. That's it. I'm done.
Bye.
Bye.